All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a time, not really that long ago, when the whole idea of home in the Persian Gulf got completely turned on its head. A time when familiar shores suddenly became foreign lands.
Just imagine being arrested. And this is the list of reasons why. In the 1930s, for a lot of people in Bahrain, this was very real. British officials would use these four things, no house, no job, no pass, no Arabic, to lock people up as vagrants. And they do this even if your family had been living there for generations. And that really gets to the heart of it, right? When these folks were arrested, they were just confused. They'd say things like, "But my family is here." Because for them, belonging was all about those deep roots, about relationships. So what on earth changed? How did a line on a map suddenly become more powerful than a whole lifetime of connection?
To really get this, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. We need to go back to a time when the Persian Gulf was a totally different kind of place. It wasn't something that divided people, it was what connected them.
You see, the lifeblood of the whole region was this idea of oceanic mobility. People were constantly moving back and forth across the water, for all sorts of everyday reasons, to trade goods, to visit their cousins, or even just to get away from the brutal summer heat. The water didn't separate them, it was basically a highway that linked everyone together.
And to really wrap your head around this, you have to literally change how you look at the world. See how this map is turned on its side? That's not a mistake. It's designed to help us see the Gulf the way the people who lived there saw it, not as some barrier between Iran and Arabia, but as the central unifying feature of their world. It's a total mind shift.
So you can see the region wasn't just a bunch of dots on a map. It was this incredibly complex system of overlapping webs of interaction. You had connections like the Manama web or the Bushehr web, and each one linked coastal towns to places inland and, most importantly, to towns right across the water. It was just this world of constant, free-flowing movement in every direction.
So what happened? What could possibly unravel this world that had existed for so long? Well, it turns out three powerful modern forces started to pull everything apart, and they changed the game completely.
These are what the source material calls the triple entanglements. You've got global markets, you've got intervention from outside powers, and you've got new technologies. And the key thing to remember is that these weren't happening in a vacuum. Nope, they were all tangled up together, feeding off each other and making each other stronger.
So let's break that down. First up, global markets. The world wanted pearls and dates, which brought money into the region, sure, but it also brought a ton of new surveillance and taxes. Then you have external powers, like the British and the Iranian government. They built new ports and things that made travel easier, but they also created all these new rules to control who could travel. And new tech. Wow, that was the perfect double-edged sword. Steamships made crossing the Gulf way faster than ever before, but they also carried the very printed documents, the passes and permits that would soon stop people from crossing at all.
And all of this leads to the biggest, most direct change of all, the human cost of drawing hard lines on a map where there had never been any before.
Okay, so what we're really talking about here is this huge shift away from something called layered sovereignty. For centuries, power was, well, it was messy. You had local sheiks, regional powers, distant empires, all with a slice of the pie. It was fluid. But that all got replaced by this brand new, rigid idea, territorialization. Basically, the new rule was one government, one territory with a hard line drawn around it, period.
So what did that actually mean for a regular person, day to day? Well, before, you could just hop on a boat and go. Your right to be somewhere was based on your family, your business connections. Now you needed a piece of paper. You needed an Iranian ilmokabar or a British certificate of identity. Suddenly, your freedom to move wasn't about who you knew, but about what some bureaucrat decided.
Just let that sink in for a second. For people whose entire lives, whose families and businesses span both shores of the Gulf, suddenly, you needed official permission from a government far away just to go home.
And some people just wouldn't stand for it. This quote tells this absolutely incredible story about the people of Bandar Lingeh. Faced with this new system of control, the entire town packed up everything they owned, got into their boats, and just left, migrating across the Gulf as one single community. A customs official came by the next day and reported that the village was simply empty of residents.
So you can imagine, this history didn't just disappear. It left this deep, lasting legacy, and it raises these fundamental questions about identity and belonging that people are still grappling with today.
Take this quote from a man in Kuwait. He's talking about the Al-Kandari family. Now, that name originally just referred to people who came from southern Iran and had a specific job, usually distributing water. It wasn't a tribe. But now, decades later, that shared history of migration in this new, bordered world has forged them into this incredibly tight-knit, powerful social group.
So this really sums up the whole shift, doesn't it? Belonging used to be about your personal connections, your ability to move, this feeling of watan, this idea of a home that lives in your heart, not on a map. And then boom, it all changed. Now, belonging is about a passport, about official papers, and about which side of a political line you happen to be born on.
And that leaves us with this really big question to chew on. The story of the Persian Gulf is a powerful reminder of how a simple line on a map can completely rewrite who's a native and who's a foreigner. So if that's the case, it really makes you wonder, what does home truly mean?